Corey, we have some player movement in the NBA, not a trade, but real player movement of a named player. Blake Griffin, bought out by the Detroit Pistons, actually gave up $13 million to get out of there. Signs with the Brooklyn Nets. Do you like this signing? Do you think that this helps the Nets win down the line?
Signed with the Brooklyn Nets on a league veteran minimum contract, by the way.
Yes.
So if you're a Nets fan, yes, this is pretty sweet. Because you think about it this way, Kurt, like, yeah, they see him as a small ball center coming off the bench. But if the number two, like, think about who's coming off the bench for the other team. They don't have Blake Griffin. So you have a former franchise player as your number two center. That's dangerous. As a mismatch, that's dangerous.
It can be. I'm a little concerned. Like, if you watched him in Detroit, the athleticism is just not there anymore. After the years of injuries and Father Time's kind of just winning the race with him, he gets exposed defensively, which is a big concern in Brooklyn. He's not really mobile. He doesn't have the same lift. I mean, he's shooting 36.5% on overall and 31% from three. And I think that ultimately is the real question, because he moves the ball well. He's a smart player. He'll be in the right places. But guys he's especially in key games, he's going to be out there even on the second unit with Harden or with Irving or with Durant. And those guys are going to create open looks for everyone else. The real question is, can he hit them? Because he hasn't hit them so far. The lift isn't there. But if he knocks those down, then yeah, it's a great fit. He can play small ball five. He can play backup four. And he said he wanted to go there because they need a four-man. I'm like, Kevin Durant is pretty good at the four. But I think coming off the bench, I think he can provide something for them if he can just knock down shots.
Yeah, I mean, once again, James Harden is basically a walking triple-double in Brooklyn. Yeah. And he's going to get you the ball. And if you're a big guy, like coming off the bench, what does your team really need from you? They don't need him to score 20 points. They don't need him to shoot over 50%. If he goes in and gets 8 to 10 points off the bench and helps that team get better, once again, for a league minimum contract, you're paying $2 million for Blake Griffin, and he can get you 8 to 10 points off the bench. I mean, it's a no-brainer for Brooklyn.
Yeah, if they could get a DeLorean with a flux capacitor in the back and put DeAndre Jordan in it, like get those guys from Lob City about 5 years ago, they'd be good.
But it's funny because James Harden. So you had DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, and Chris Paul, and they went to the playoffs every year for that little stretch. And now you have DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, and James Harden. And not to mention Kyrie and KD. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they've had a really nice career, really nice run, and if you're going somewhere to chase a ring, Brooklyn's a really good place to go right now.
Definitely. And coming up, though, we have another potential player move.
Yeah.
And that name is another big name, Andre Drummond. So, Kurt, they haven't even played him in Cleveland, looking for a trade ahead of the March 25th deadline. Do you think a buyout is more likely at this point, or do you think they'll be able to find a trade partner?
No, first off, it's a little strange that they took him out of games without a trade lined up. Like, you usually don't pull the guy out of games until, hey, the deal's all done, but we just have to finalize stuff, and you sit him out. He sat out a lot of time now. I think a buyout's more likely just because he makes $28.7 million. Like, Boston could use him as a backup center. They can't even fit him into the Gordon Hayward trade exception. Like, you have to give up a lot of money, a lot of assets going back, and Andre Drummond's in the last year of his contract. He's a rental, essentially. I just don't think there's a deal there. I think it's a buyout, and then he's got plenty of options on the buyout market. The Lakers would like him. Boston would like him. Like, there's a lot of teams that would have interest in him, like Blake, as a veteran minimum guy.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at his numbers, he's averaging 17 and 13, right? He's 27 years old. He's kind of like, he's still playing well. He's in the prime of his career. And for 17 and 13, that double-double, that can get you, I mean, that's worth $28 million in the NBA right now. That's what's so funny about this. But you're right. In the last year of his contract, there's only a couple months left. Is it worth the team, paying that kind of money for 3 months of play, especially when you're thinking about, okay, well, if he's going to go to one of these playoff contenders, do they even have space for that kind of contract? Or is a better scenario something like a Blake Griffin? But like we talked about before, I think his scenario is different because he's already getting paid, so he can afford to take the league veteran minimum, whereas Andre Drummond has to figure that one out.
Yeah, and Andre brings value. I don't want to dismiss him. He, on top of like being able to score inside, he's probably the best rebounder in the game. Like, he is just an absolute beast on the boards. And Man, that is a real value, especially come the postseason when you need to go get some boards. And certain teams, if you're playing, the Lakers could use him because they've got to go up against Denver or some of these teams that are aggressive on the offensive glass. You want to be there.
Yeah, Warriors. We talked about before. Thinking about maybe Boogie going to the Warriors, Andre Drummond going to the Warriors.
Yeah,
going out there.
Yeah. All right. We are getting into award season in the NBA. Well, not really. We're getting into the mid-season award season. Like
our award season. It's our award season, Kurt.
It's our award season. It's halfway through. It's time to kind of think about, hey, who would you have as these awards? So let's talk about, Corey, who you would have for some of the big awards, and we'll start right at the top. Corey, first half of the season, you had a vote today. Who is your MVP?
I have to go with Nikola Jokic. And my honorable mention is Steph Curry. But I think that Nikola Jokic is doing something that is just sensational. It's just sensational. He's averaging 27 points a game, 11 rebounds, and nearly 9 assists. He has 9 triple-doubles, only one behind Russell Westbrook in the entire NBA. He has 4 40-plus point games. The guy is just – and when you watch Denver, I mean, I don't know if you've watched like a lot of Denver games this year, but just watch them play. Jokic is he wills them to victory. You know what I'm saying? So for them to be 21-15 and all the COVID issues, Jamal Murray sometimes playing well, sometimes not, trying to figure it out still. Michael Porter Jr., a critical part for them, was out for a while, but they're still winning, games. It's because of Jokic. He's willing that team to victory. And I don't know any other player that's as important to their team as Nikola Jokic is. Because without Jokic, I mean, what is Denver? As far as like, what would their record be? I don't even know.
Yeah, they've been better than their record this season. And Jokic has been a key. The other thing is he's clutch. I mean, he's up there with Lillard in the like most clutch players in the NBA discussion because he's great at the end of games. And you're right, Jamal Murray struggled to start the season. They don't have like key guys, and he helped get them where they are, and they're kind of poised to make a better run in the second half. Although I will argue for my guy being just as important to his team and valuable that way. I would say Joel Embiid is my first half most valuable player. 30 points a game. They don't play nearly as well in Philly with him off the floor. They're 1-5 in games he's missed. He is so central to what they do and key to me on both ends. And this is where I have him slightly ahead of Jokic. Look, he is a defensive anchor. We're going to discuss him as a defensive player of the year kind of candidate. I don't know if he's going to win it, but he is in that discussion on top of being central to their offense. They're the number 1 team in the East. My only concern is he's missed 6 games so far. There's a history there. If he can stay healthy, though, and continue to play at this level, I think he's in there. By the way, LeBron, he was lobbying. Yes, he lobbying for it like in the bubble last year. Like he wants this thing, but you've got to consider him.
I will say though, Kurt, I got to say with LeBron, it's interesting because when Anthony Davis was out, and we talked about this last year during the bubble, how important Anthony Davis was to that Lakers team, particularly in the finals. I thought finals MVP could have gone either way, but this year Anthony Davis goes out. He hasn't played since Valentine's Day. What's the team's record? They were on a 4-game skid, and then they ended up being 3-6. One of those games, the loss against Sacramento, LeBron didn't play in. But it's interesting to me that even though LeBron was still putting up 30 points a game, even though, he was still trying to will that team to victory, they weren't able to. I mean, and sure, there was a lot of pieces missing. I don't, obviously there was a lot of pieces missing. But like Schroeder and Caruso, there was a lot of people, and Marc Gasol, they were all missing during that little stretch at different points in time. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, 3-6 without AD, you need AD. Like AD is, But Jokic, on the other hand, like I said, he's kind of like he's willing that team to victory. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, Jokic gets the edge. Yeah,
I know. I'm there, and the other guy, but I think Lillard has to be in the discussion. And then, by the way, Curry is in there. I think you mentioned him. Yeah, I think this is a little more open than a lot of years. Nobody's running away with this thing for me. Like, there's not like you got to catch this way. Unlike another award we should discuss, Rookie of the Year, where I think one guy kind of is running away with it. Who do you have for Rookie of the Year?
Same guy as you, LaMelo Ball, right? I feel like there's only one right answer here.
Yeah, he is. I mean, not only does he leads the rookies in the NBA in points, assists, and rebounds a game, all 3 categories. LaMelo Ball's got the most, but more than that to me, he impacts winning. Like, he's out there at the end of games impacting wins and losses, which is not common for rookies. Even really good rookies don't impact winning and losing much in the NBA. He does right now. They're counting on him. James Borrego counts on him. Yeah, to me, like, it's kind of clear in a way he's the guy to, he's running away with this thing. I do like, by the way, the only other guy, Tyrese Halliburton, would be number 2.
Yeah, he looks good.
It's been fantastic. And then you get into Emmanuel quickly and everybody else after that. But those 2 guys are kind of a clear 1-2 to me.
Yeah, I mean, LaMelo Ball, when you're thinking a number 7 seed in the East, potentially making your team a playoff team and being one of the critical guys, that is, as a rookie, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's not really seen much as rookies. A race that's not as clear, Coach of the Year, to me, feels pretty wide open, although I don't know if you agree with that. Who would you have as your Coach of the Year, Corey?
I have Quinn Snyder because I think the Utah Jazz, because when you look at the Utah Jazz, we've talked about this as the NBA being a superstar league, right? And you could argue, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. I think that Donovan Mitchell's becoming a superstar. I think he had a great coming out party last year, and then now he's taken that role. But it's not like, LeBron James, Anthony, Davis, or Luka Doncic. That team, I think, is more of they do it by committee, right? It's the best team in the NBA. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if this team is number 1, they've been number 1 for a long time, and they're a legitimate number 1. They are a very good team, no doubt about it. What makes them a great team? They're very well coached, and their players step up and play. So for me, I think Quinn Snyder, what he's done in Utah is, that deserves Coach of the Year, to get your team to be the best team in the NBA.
No, I agree that he is absolutely in the mix. It wasn't going to be my first choice, but I would absolutely be okay with him winning the award. And he would be like second on my ballot. He's, like you said, winning with an ensemble and taking time over years to really build this, where this is, you're right. Look, can they get points? Just, hey, throw it to Donovan, have him isolate, or we'll just run a Conley, Gobert pick and roll. Good luck stopping that. Like, yeah, they can get points that way, but they get so many system points because everybody buys in. They're cutting, they're moving, they're flowing. They look a lot more, who they remind me of in some ways? A team you're familiar with, the 2014 Spurs. Everybody's moving off the ball. The ball is constantly moving. It's hard to defend that when it's at a high level. And, we can debate whether they carry it over into the playoffs, but I think they can. And I think that this team I haven't seen ball movement like this maybe since then, or at least the Warriors were close, but they could also, I think they could go back to isolation because, Curry, Durant, like they could get away with it. I really love the way this team plays. I will say that as my Coach of the Year, I would actually go with Tom Thibodeau. Really close. If I had to vote today, and it's wide open for me going into the second half of the year, but not only are the Knicks outperforming what we expected of them, but to me, he's changed the culture there. Like, that team tries on defense. It is a reflection of him, right? They are gritty. They defend. They come at you every night. They're getting enough offense from Julius Randle and Emmanuel quickly to make it work. I really think the shift there, they're looking like the kind of team now, Corey, where free agents might go, I could go to New York. Like I would, where a year ago, could they go, over the last few years, could they even get meetings with those guys? No.
Yeah, a lot has changed in New York in the past year. I think of it almost like Julius Randle is the perfect fit of the leader of that team. He goes about his business, gets the job done. It's not about personal accolades. He's about the game, about winning, getting everyone else around him better. And he's just printing out, like the stat sheet's unbelievable, just printing out numbers, But yeah, Coach Thibodeau did a great job being able to take that team and bring them to, the mid-level of the Eastern Conference and say we weren't even in the discussion of any type of playoffs. And then now we're actually sitting pretty nice here. I love what's happening in that New York culture. And I think most importantly, the culture can be defined as basically, are you proud to be a New York Knick?
Yeah.
And I think that question has haunted New York Knicks fans for a long time because there was a period in time where, it wasn't something to be proud of because it's just L's after L's after L's. But now that team, you could see the way they play. Julius Randle seems like he's proud to be, like Obi Toppin seems like he's proud to be a New York Knick, So when you watch that, I think it's very exciting.
I think that there are other guys, by the way, who could be in this race. Doc Rivers has done a phenomenal job in Philadelphia. And you could go really deep into the list. Your man, Greg Popovich, should deserve. I mean, he kind of should be perennially, just every year he's on the list, right? But he's done a fantastic job getting that Spurs team to kind of play over their heads this year, especially with some injuries. James, we mentioned Charlotte a while ago. James Borrego has been fantastic. And there's other guys we're not even mentioning. They have done a fantastic job. Terry Stotts up in Portland, some other guys who could be on this list this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of great coaches in the NBA. We're blessed to have a great league with great coaches. So keep on keeping on, guys. Keep on keeping on.